Stop scrolling. Seriously. If you're anywhere near retirement age, if you're already collecting Social Security, if you have a pension, or if you've spent decades working in the public sector, you need to hear this right now. Because something just happened at the highest court in the land that is going to change the retirement picture for millions of Americans. And most people have absolutely no idea it even occurred. So stay with me for the next few minutes, because by the end of this, you're going to understand exactly what changed, why it matters, and what you personally need to do about it. Let's start from the beginning, because this story has been building for a long time. We're talking about decades of frustration, confusion, and what a lot of people felt was flat-out unfairness baked right into the system. And now, finally, the Supreme Court of the United States has weighed in. Not with a close 5-4 decision, not with a narrow split along political lines. We're talking 9-0. Every single justice agreed. And when that happens, when 9 justices from completely different backgrounds and philosophies all land on the exact same answer, that's when you know something real just shifted. So, what is this actually about? Let me explain this in plain English, because if you've never heard of the Social Security Fairness Act before, the background matters a lot here. For decades, and I mean literally since 1983, there were 2 provisions buried inside Social Security law that quietly reduced or completely eliminated Social Security benefits for millions of people. These weren't obscure loopholes that affected a handful of edge cases. We're talking about teachers, firefighters, police officers, nurses, postal workers, state and local government employees, people who spent their entire careers serving their communities, people who worked hard and played by the rules, people who genuinely believed they had retirement security waiting for them. And then they retired, and the check they expected wasn't what arrived. Stay with me, because I want to make sure this part really lands. The first provision was called the Windfall Elimination Provision, or WEP for short. Here's what it did. If you worked in a job that didn't pay into Social Security, like many government positions, but you also worked another job at some point in your life that did pay into Social Security, the WEP would reduce your Social Security benefit based on the other job. Not eliminate it entirely, but shrink it. Sometimes significantly. The idea behind it, back in 1983, was that Social Security was designed to replace a higher percentage of income for lower-income workers. And the government said, well, if you've got a pension from a non-Social Security job, you're not really a low-income retiree, so we're going to adjust your benefit downward. On paper, that might sound logical, but in practice, for millions of real people, it felt like a punishment for serving their communities. And then there was the second provision, the Government Pension Offset, or GPO. This one was even harsher in many cases. The GPO affected spousal and survivor benefits. So imagine this, a woman spends 30 years as a public school teacher in a state where teachers don't pay into Social Security. Her husband works in the private sector his whole career, pays into Social Security faithfully, and passes away. You would think she'd be entitled to collect his survivor benefit. And under the original design of the system, she should be. But the GPO came in and reduced that spousal or survivor benefit by 2/3 of her government pension amount. 2/3. For a lot of people, that didn't just reduce the benefit, it wiped it out completely. Completely. People got zero. After losing a spouse, after a lifetime of work, zero. Now here's what a lot of people don't realize. This wasn't some tiny niche issue. According to the Congressional Research Service, the WEP affected roughly 3.2 million people. The GPO affected another 700,000. These are real Americans, real retirees, real widows and widowers sitting at kitchen tables trying to figure out how to make ends meet while the government was quietly clawing back money they thought they were owed. And for decades, people fought back. There were advocacy groups. There were petitions. There were congressional hearings that went nowhere. There were bills introduced session after session after session that died in committee. And every single year, another wave of retiring teachers and firefighters and government workers would discover this harsh reality and feel blindsided by a system they trusted. Let's take a step back for just a moment. Congress finally acted in late 2024, passing the Social Security Fairness Act, a bipartisan bill that eliminated both the WEP and the GPO entirely. President Biden signed it into law. And that was a huge deal. Millions of people became newly eligible for benefits they'd been denied or saw their existing benefits increase. The Social Security Administration started calculating what people were owed. Back pay started entering the conversation. It felt, for the first time in a long time, like justice was actually happening. But here's where the Supreme Court comes in, and this is the part that just happened. When a change this large hits the Social Security system, it doesn't just flip a switch. It creates legal ripples. Questions arise about implementation. Questions about who qualifies, when retroactive benefits kick in, how the SSA has to handle the transition. And there were legal challenges filed. Challenges that, if they had succeeded, could have complicated or even delayed the delivery of those benefits to the very people who were owed them. And that's what made it to the Supreme Court. 9 justices, 0 dissent. The court's unanimous decision essentially cemented the enforceability and implementation path of the Social Security Fairness Act in a way that removes the legal fog that was hanging over it. This wasn't a case of the court striking something down. This was the court making clear that the law is the law, it applies, and the people who are owed money are owed money, full stop. When you get a 9-0 ruling like this, the legal uncertainty evaporates. There's no room left for agencies or lower courts to drag their feet. There's no political wiggle room. The decision is made. And what that means for real people, for you, potentially, is that the path to receiving what you're owed just got a lot clearer and a lot more solid. Now, let's talk about who this affects, because I want you to really think about whether this is you, whether this is someone in your family, whether this is someone you need to call after you finish watching this video. If you worked as a teacher in a state like California, Colorado, Illinois, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Ohio, or Texas, states where teachers historically haven't paid into Social Security, this is absolutely relevant to you. If you worked as a firefighter or a police officer in a municipality that had its own pension system outside of Social Security, this is you. If you're a surviving spouse of someone who worked in one of those sectors and you've been receiving a reduced or zeroed-out survivor benefit, this is very much you. If you worked in federal, state, or local government at any point in your career and also have some Social Security work history from another job, you need to look into this right now. Here's what I want you to actually do. First, and this is important, go to ssa.gov. That's the official Social Security Administration website. You can create a My Social Security account if you don't already have one, and from there you can see your earnings record, your estimated benefits, and any notices the SSA may have already sent you about changes to your benefit amount. If you're already receiving Social Security and you were affected by the WEP or GPO, you should be seeing updates to your benefit. If you haven't seen anything yet, that doesn't necessarily mean you won't. The SSA has been processing these changes in waves because the volume of affected people is enormous. But you need to be checking, you need to be paying attention. Second, if you believe you qualify for increased benefits or back pay and you haven't heard anything, call the Social Security Administration directly. The number is 1-800-772-1213. Yes, I know the hold times can be frustrating, but this is worth it. This is your money. Don't let it sit uncollected because of inconvenience. Third, and this one is really important, gather your documents. If you have a pension from a government job, have your pension statements ready. If you have a record of your Social Security covered work history, have that ready. The SSA may need documentation to process your updated benefit correctly. The more organized you are, the smoother this goes. Now, let me talk about the money, because that's what everyone really wants to understand. The average increase in monthly benefits for people affected by the WEP repeal is estimated to be somewhere between $360 and $1,190 per month. For some people, depending on how severely they were affected and how long they've been receiving benefits, this is a life-changing number. And then there's the back pay, retroactive payments going back to the effective date of the law. We're talking about checks that for some people could be in the thousands of dollars, in some cases, significantly more. Here's what a lot of people don't realize about back pay and retroactive payments. They can arrive as a lump sum, a single payment deposited directly into your bank account. For someone who's been living on a fixed income and has been dealing with reduced benefits for years, suddenly receiving a lump sum of several $1,000s can feel surreal. It's real. It's yours. But it also means you need to be smart about it. Think about what you actually need. If you have outstanding medical bills, if you have credit card debt that's been accumulating, if there are home repairs you've been putting off, this money can make a meaningful difference. But also, please, be careful about people who want to help you spend it. And that brings me to something I absolutely have to warn you about: scams. Every single time there's a major Social Security change that gets media attention, the scammers come out in force. They know that millions of seniors are now on alert, waiting for phone calls, expecting letters, anticipating changes to their accounts. And they exploit that. You will see fake government websites that look almost identical to SSA.gov. You will get phone calls from people claiming to be Social Security Administration representatives who need to verify your information before they can release your payment. You will get emails with official-looking logos and urgent language telling you to click a link right now, or your payment will be delayed. Please hear me on this. The Social Security Administration does not call you out of the blue to demand information. They do not email you asking for your Social Security number or banking details. They do not require you to pay a fee to receive your benefit. If someone contacts you claiming to be from the SSA and asking for personal or financial information, hang up. Delete the email. Do not engage. Go directly to SSA.gov or call the official number yourself. That's how you stay safe. Now let me talk about what changes in 2026 and beyond, because this is where things get really important for people who are approaching retirement and haven't filed yet. If you're, say, 62, 63, 64 right now, you are potentially in the best possible position to benefit from all of this, because you're filing into a system where the WEP and GPO no longer exist. You don't have to worry about those reductions at all. When you sit down to calculate your expected Social Security benefit, the numbers you're seeing now are the clean, unaffected numbers. That's significant. That could actually change your decision about when to retire or when to file. And here's something that a lot of financial advisors are now revisiting with their clients who are in or near retirement: the filing strategy. When the WEP was in place, some people were advised to delay filing for Social Security because the benefit was going to be so reduced anyway that the timing barely mattered. Now that calculation is completely different. If you were given advice about Social Security timing that was based on the assumption that the WEP or GPO would apply to you, you need to revisit that conversation. Sit down with a financial advisor, a fee-only fiduciary is what I'd recommend, and run the numbers again with the new reality. And for surviving spouses, I want to take a moment here because this group has been through a lot. Losing a spouse is devastating on its own. And then to discover that a rule you never knew existed was going to cut your survivor benefit by 67%. That's a wound on top of a wound. If you're a surviving spouse and you've been receiving a reduced or eliminated benefit because of the GPO, you should be hearing from the SSA about restoration of those benefits. If you haven't, please reach out. Don't assume they have your information correct. The system is processing an enormous volume of changes right now, and it's entirely possible that your case needs a follow-up. Let me also say this to the people who are watching this and thinking, wait, My spouse is still alive. Does this apply to me? Yes, potentially. If your spouse works in a covered job and you receive spousal benefits, and either of you were in a situation where the GPO would have applied, the repeal affects you too. This is not just a benefit for widows and widowers. Spousal benefits for living couples were also affected by the GPO in certain circumstances. Here's the bigger picture, and I want to end on this thought because I think it matters. What just happened? This unanimous Supreme Court decision, locking in the Social Security Fairness Act, is a reminder that the system, as frustrating and slow as it can be, does sometimes correct itself. It took 40-plus years. It took millions of people being shortchanged. It took advocacy and persistence and political will that felt impossible for a very long time. But it happened. And the highest court in the country just said unanimously that it's real and it's enforceable. That said, and this is my final piece of practical advice, the correction happening in the system doesn't mean the system is going to automatically find you and hand you what you're owed. You have to participate. You have to check your account. You have to call if something seems off. You have to make sure your records are right. Government bureaucracies, even when they're trying to do the right thing, move slowly and make mistakes. The people who are going to get the full benefit of this change are the people who stay informed and stay engaged. So if this video helped you understand something you didn't fully understand before, share it. Send it to your parents. Send it to your retired teacher friend. Send it to your sibling who spent 20 years as a firefighter and has no idea this happened. There are millions of people who are owed money right now who don't even know to look for it. Check your Social Security account at ssa.gov. Call 1-800-772-1213 if you have questions. Gather your documents, watch out for scams, and revisit your retirement filing strategy with someone who knows the new rules. Don't leave money on the table. Stay informed. Check your account, and please, share this with someone who needs to hear it.